Hello, so today we are going to be looking at the human reproductive system. We will firstly look at the male reproductive system, and then we'll look at the female reproductive system as well as the female menstrual cycle. So in front of your screen right now you have the front view of the male reproductive system. So we will look on all the organs that are involved in the male reproductive system. Each one of them will be explaining its functions in relation to the reproduction. So to make sense of this, I'll just go to a sectional view of the male reproductive system. So I will start by explaining it organ by organ as well as its functions. So here, where your pointer is at the moment, you have your scrotum. So your scrotum is just a skin sac which basically protects and holds the testes in place. So we will look at the testes later, we'll explain it as well. So this scrotum is a skin sac which just holds the testes in place and also protects it from external forces. But most importantly, the most important function of the scrotum is to make the testis itself to be extended out of the male body. This is to allow for the testis to have a temperature that is 2 degrees Celsius less than the body temperature. This ensures maximum sperm production within the testis. So this is the most important function of the testis. So in most instances, you'll find that the testis is 2 degrees Celsius lower than the body temperature. And then here inside the scrotum, you have your testis then. So your testis is where this is the site of production of sperm cells as well as the hormone testosterone, which we'll look into later. So this is where the male gametogenesis occur, which is mostly termed as spermatogenesis. So this is where spermatogenesis occurs. So basically this is where the sperm cells are produced. And then right above your testis you have your epididymis. So as the sperm cells are produced here in the testis, they are then stored here in the epididymis. So this is where they are temporarily stored, and then they get matured here, and then whenever they are ready to be ejected out, they will come from the epididymis. So this is the storage of your sperm cells. And then here, this duct here, you will see that this duct is the duct that joins the testis with your urethra of the male reproductive system. So this sperm duct basically transports the sperm from the epididymis where the sperm cells are stored. So they transport the sperm cells from the epididymis into your urethra, so that the sperm cells will be then ejected out of the male reproductive system. And then moving on here now, we have what we call the seminal vesicle. So the seminal vesicle is the gland just above your prostate gland. So the main function of the seminal vesicle is to produce nutrients in a fluid form. So these nutrients will then provide the sperm cell with energy so that it can swim around the female reproductive organs in order for fertilization to occur. So here, this is where the nutrients are then provided to your sperm cells. So below that then you have your prostate gland. So your prostate is also a gland as well. So the main function of this gland is to produce fluid which is alkaline, or we can say it's basic. It's a basic form of fluid. So this fluid here that is produced, it is then used by the sperm cells to neutralize the vaginal acid in the female reproductive organs, because like the vaginal acids that are within the female reproductive system are too strong. So if the sperm cells does not have anything to neutralize it, the sperm cell will then die out. So the function of the prostate gland is to produce this basic solution, which will then neutralize the acid within the female reproductive organ so that fertilization can occur successfully. And then now lastly on the gland, we have what we call the Kompis gland. So with the Kompis gland, it also produces mucus, like a fluid form of of mucus. So this mucus will then allow the sperm cells to move around, like it would be slippery, so it can move around the female reproductive organ, which will look shortly. And then all of these fluids, then from the sperm cells to the fluid that is produced in the seminal vesicle, as well as the fluid that is produced in the prostate gland, and lastly this mucus that is produced in the Kompis gland, will together come out, and then this is what we will call the semen. So what comes out of the male reproductive system into the female reproductive system is what we call the semen, which is basically all of these fluids that I've just mentioned here. So those are the glands that are involved here. And then we have here now this duct here, which is called the urethra. So in the urogenital system, it will then be described as a duct that will basically provide the passage of urine out of the body system. But because we are talking about the reproductive system here, this duct will then transport the sperm cells into the female reproductive organs during sexual intercourse. And then lastly, you have your penis of the male reproductive system, which acts as a source where you can insert the penis into the female reproductive system during sexual intercourse, which will then result in fertilization, which is the main aim of the sexual intercourse. So what we didn't talk about is the testosterone that is produced here in the testes, which is a very important hormone within males generally, and also the male reproductive system in particular. So what is testosterone? So testosterone is basically a hormone that is produced here in the testes. So the function of testosterone is to just help the males to develop their male sexual characteristics. So you'll see males have the beard, the muscular body, and as well as the deep voice. But you should note that in some females, testosterone is produced in very low amount. So this is why in some females you have a little bit of male sexual characteristics. And another function of this hormone is to make sure that the sperm cells that are produced and stored here in the epididymis are then matured enough to be able to fertilize the egg cell in the female reproductive system. So basically, this whole system here, it is just to make the sperm cells and eventually get them out here of the male reproductive system for fertilization to occur. So now what is important is for us to know what is the sperm cell itself. So the sperm cell is this, what you see in front of your screen right now. So this would be your sperm cell. So during sexual intercourse, millions of these single sperms are then produced and then are deposited into the female reproductive system. But looking at each one of them, we'll have to understand the characteristics of the sperm cell so that we can be able to analyze how fertilization can occur. So the sperm cell is divided into three parts, which is the head part here, the middle piece or the body of the sperm cell, and the tail. So what does each of these entail? So the head here, which is basically the head, as you can see, it's like right in front of the head here, you have the Aqua Zone. So the Aqua Zone is basically the enzymes that are used by the sperm cells to digest the wall of the egg cell so that the sperm cell can be able to penetrate the egg cell. So the egg cell has a body wall which does not allow the sperm cell or anything to penetrate it. So it will need something to digest it so that this whole sperm here can be able to penetrate the egg cell. So these here enzymes that are here would then help to digest the body wall, and then eventually the sperm cell can penetrate and then fertilization can occur. And then here inside the head, you have the nucleus. So the nucleus basically contains the genetic material from the paternal side, which is the father's side in simple terms, that will provide the DNA. So basically here you have 23 chromosomes from the father's side that will then be combined with another 23 chromosomes from the maternal side. So that's basically the head of the sperm cell. And then here you have your middle piece. So your middle piece basically only contains your mitochondria. So remember, we had the seminal vesicle, which provided nutrients so that this sperm cell can have energy to swim around. So that energy is then stored here in your mitochondria of the sperm cells. And then lastly, we have the tail. So basically, the tail, as you know it in aquatic animals, it is used for swimming around. So the tail of this sperm cell is to allow it to swim from the male reproductive system into the female reproductive system and eventually be able to reach the egg cell, and so fertilization can then occur. So basically that is basically your male reproductive system. So on the next lesson we'll have to look at our female reproductive system.